You can hear me now. All right, let's go. Hello all, and welcome back again to another live stream. It's been quite a few for you all from me in the past week. Huge echo. Well, let me just tell me if that's any better. That may have improved it quite a lot. Hopefully that's better. But we'll run with it. Tell me if the echo is any better now. But perfect, thanks guys. Welcome to another live stream, an exciting one today, as we've had the fixtures announced for the new season. So we will be looking at that, how it's impacted our teams, any decisions that we're making off the back of it, and anything like that. So yeah, we'll get straight into the fixtures and everything that it means. Thanks guys for letting me know. So let me just, before we get going, let's get going. So guys, sorry for the gap on my layout. We haven't got a guest this time, as it was sort of a last minute thing. First, before we get into it, if you guys don't follow me already, if you could go and do so. My page is there for you all. Let me know if I'm back, guys. That should be all up and running fine for you all there. So as I was saying, the league for you all there, if you are there to join, there are monthly and so on prizes for you all to get into. But yeah, let's get into it. If you guys don't already, please do drop me a follow on Twitter. But let's get into the fixtures, right? So first sponsor before we get into it, Fantasy Football Hub. If you guys don't know about them, really good stats, and we'll be using their fixture ticker this evening just to go through some of them. Great stuff. There's a link in my description which will give you 25% off and everything like that. Link in the description. They've got a new app as well that came out today, so you've got FPL statistics on the go wherever you may be. And the other stream sponsor you can see at the bottom is this FPL merch, great mugs and things like that, anything you need for prizes and everything like that. So yeah, app looks great. It's a great service, and I'm really enjoying working with them, and then all the insights that they can provide. So if we get straight into some of the fixtures, so this is the fixture ticker that we've got on with this new fixture ticket that they've got on Fantasy Football Hub, and we'll be going through some of that straight away and getting straight into it. So I think the first thing to look at is some of the easiest fixtures. I think if we start off, with the first four fixtures, maybe people are planning on an early wild card. Erwin, thanks. So if we start off with the first 4 game weeks, and in terms of what the easiest fixtures are, we can have a look, and we can see that let's push it up to 8 weeks, that someone like Southampton has very easy fixtures for the first sort of 8 weeks. It's a group of fixtures that I really like from Southampton. Got Palace, Spurs, Burnley, West Brom, Chelsea, Everton, Villa and Newcastle all there. Spurs next. I think Spurs is a really interesting one. They come out second highest, although they have got some interestingly what could be difficult fixtures early on. Newcastle at home, you never know how Newcastle are going to play. You've got Southampton away and Everton at home as well early on. None of these are ideal fixtures for you all. For Spurs, I think it's worth considering going with Son or Kane at the beginning, or a defender. Matches like that, Newcastle, West Ham and the Everton game all being at home, could definitely see a potential clean sheet coming in for Spurs there. Fulham next on the list, 1.44 difficulty rating. It's an interesting one in terms of the attacking potential that they've got in there against that. It's worth noting that you have this little flicking fixture which will change in terms of defensive and attacking probability in terms of keeping clean sheets versus scoring goals. So if you want to pick a defender, you can flick to defense. If you want to pick an attacker, you can flick to attack. So if we go onto my team, Lee, I do, but I'm not going to get into that topic that's been done to death, really. But I do agree with it. If we have a look at some of the transfers I've made off the back of these fixtures coming out, Aubameyang has come into my team. He's come into my team over De Bruyne, who doesn't play in week 1 and then plays Wolves in week 2. Armstrong of Southampton has come in for Saint Maximin, and Werner has come in for Martial. So, sort of a lot of short-term thinking there. If we have a look at Aubameyang, so Arsenal's a very interesting one. If we look at it in terms of attack for the first couple of game weeks, attack, and then we filter it the other way around. We know that we've got Arsenal ranking first. So Arsenal have the best opening 2 fixtures, but if we click on beyond that, they start to drop down the list. So after a while, we see them fall because they've got Liverpool and then Sheffield. If you've got Sheffield United up and Liverpool in game week 3 and game week 4. So yeah, that's an interesting start. I think a lot of people will look to have Aubameyang in those first 2, and then after, if we look at Man City down at the bottom, they've got a blank and then Wolves early on. If people start with Aubameyang in the first 2 and then they have Liverpool and Sheffield United, then swap off to those Man City assets, I think that's a good way to get over the blanks. So I think a lot of you are asking about the blank fixtures. If we have a look at United, Burnley, Villa, and City all blanking in game week 1, I think it depends who you want to go with. I've currently got Greenwood in my team still, and the reason for that is I think he's cheap enough to bench. So I think I would be looking to not start with the blankers. Sorry, I'm just having to do something with my chat. That's why I'm pausing. So we've got 4 blankers. We know that. I think that the likes of De Bruyne, the likes of Fernandes, the likes of Sterling, you can't have on your bench in game week 1. I don't think you want the Man City assets in game week 2 particularly. So I would be looking to get on those Man City assets game week 3 onwards, which means is a perfect fit for Aubameyang in game week 1 and 2. I think that is a really nice lineup. Yeah, sorry, Lee, I'll get to that in a minute. I will get to them. So yeah, I think straight off, I know I was answering a question that you guys were asking in terms of blankers. I think try not to have them in your game week 1 team. Someone like Greenwood, who's a bit cheaper, then go for it. Ramsdale for 5 million. I think he's too expensive, and I don't think their fixtures early on are good enough to warrant going for him. I think someone like Alex McCarthy with the Southampton fixtures that they have early on, I would definitely be going for them over the likes of. I would definitely be going for Southampton goalkeeper over the likes of the Sheffield United defence early on. You're going to transfer Aubameyang and Vardy in game week 3 to bring in Fernandes and Aguero. I like Fernandes. I like that pick a lot. I'm interested to see on Aguero whether he's starting. He's still not completely fit. We don't have. He's not completely fit. We don't know whether Jesus is going to get a lot of minutes next season. I would be wary on Aguero. I suppose if we know that he starts game week 2, then that gives you a little bit of a hint. But looking at Spurs' opening fixtures, I'd rather just go with Kane straight off the from the get go and stick with him. I think he's likely to be involved. I think he's likely to be involved a lot early on. So yeah, yeah, I would prefer Kane basically. I prefer Kane to anything of the others. To those Agueros that you're thinking of picking. Liverpool are low on that table. Thoughts on going without? No. Liverpool are fixture proof. You don't want to be going without them. So yeah, I would be going with your Liverpool assets. Maybe it's not a triple up. So I have had a triple up in my team and I still do, but I think a double up is probably the way that I'm going to go with it. So I'll be looking at the likes of I'll be looking at the likes of Trent and Salah probably being my two and not having Robertson as my third because I don't like their fixtures enough early on to be going with them. Although we know they're fixture proof, we know they can keep a clean sheet and get an attacking returns in practically every game. So yeah. Um, So yeah, guys, keep your questions coming in. Fire your questions into the chat, and we will get to them. In terms of how this has impacted my team again, so we have the likes of Armstrong has come in. Jimenez is still in there. You can't have a Jose striker rather than Vardy. Yeah, but we've seen at the end of the season what Spurs have done and what Kane's done in those last few weeks. He was so good in those last few games, getting a lot of points and a lot of goals that I just don't necessarily. So I don't necessarily think that it's a Jose striker. I know what you mean about a Mourinho team who isn't gonna attack as much as maybe Vardy is, but I just didn't like what I saw from Vardy at the end of from the end of the season. So I do like Kane as an option, especially with their opening fixtures. Best player from non-top six. I think there's a lot of promise from a lot of the Southampton assets early on. If we just up their fixture ticker, we've got Palace, Tottenham, Burnley, West Brom, Chelsea, Everton, Villa, Newcastle early on. They have what is ranked as the best opening set of fixtures. So I would definitely be going with some Southampton assets in my team. I've currently got Armstrong and McCarthy, but someone like Ings or Che Adams up front is also a good pick there. Do I reckon Sheffield United will be strong again or poor second season syndrome for them? So I think straight away their fixtures off at the beginning aren't good enough to be selecting them anyway. They've got Aston Villa and Leeds in game week 2 and 3, but that's surrounded by Wolves. That's surrounded by Wolves and Arsenal. So I don't think their fixtures are good enough to get on them, and I do think there'll be some second season syndrome in there for them. I think that it's not worth jumping on. I think Ramsdale is too expensive. Well, it's too expensive to get on at the beginning at 5 with their fixtures. So I will not. I don't think I'll have a Sheffield United player in my team from the start unless it fits a rotation. But 5 million for all their defenders, I think it's too much. I'd rather there are a lot of 4.5 defenders that I'll be going with. The Che Adams obsession. There's a lot of talk about him. There's a lot of people at the beginning at the end of last season who had him in their teams. He was doing very well. So I don't necessarily think, don't really understand why he's not in more of a consideration. He's a lot cheaper than Ings and he was involved in a lot of goals at the end of the season. Once he got off the mark, he was a really good option for Southampton and was really involved. So I do think there's definitely merit to be going with. So is Che Adams good enough as a third striker, or is it more of a cover for the Saints fixtures? No, I think he's definitely good enough as a third striker. I probably wouldn't have him as my second striker unless, well, it depends what formation I was playing. If I was going 3-5-2 and I had a strong five in midfield, then having a Che Adams as your second striker up front is not necessarily a bad way to go. I think he's definitely worth a look and a bit of consideration now that we've got those Southampton fixtures being so strong. Um, will Foden be a good option if I can't afford KDB? That I can't emphasize enough that Foden will not replicate what KDB does and what KDB will do next season. Foden is priced at 6.5, and if we know and we know that it's and we know that it's a low price, but it's it's not going to be anything like what we're getting from what you're going to get from KDB in returns there. Um, so yeah, I don't think you can replace KDB with Foden. Do I want FPL to be my full-time job? No, not at the moment. Should I spend your 100 million or leave some in the bank? So I think a big thing that we can work on is having zero point 0.5 in the bank. If you can leave that zero point 0.5 in the bank, I think it's really worthwhile then, because price rises after game week 1 or during game week 1 will be a lot. A lot of players will rise in price, meaning you don't want to have to be scrambling to make your transfers early if you're looking to bring someone in, because the likes of your City assets and everything like that and your United assets will inevitably rise going into game week 2, because people won't pick them game week 1 because they blank, and they'll be coming in game week 2 at an increased price to what they are already. So definitely worth leaving money in the bank this season more than ever. Otherwise, you will be left not being able to afford those premium assets. So you think Ogbonna is being overlooked? I don't like the West Ham fixtures. They've got some of the worst fixtures in the entire league. At the start of the season, I had that on my thread. They were number 20. I don't want to be going near any West Ham assets early on. Yeah, especially with the blanks, they'll rise in price. All those United and City assets you're trying to buy will rise in price going into game week 2. So is Fernandez more of a priority to bring in over KDB because of these fixtures? I don't necessarily think so, because I think Fernandez is a strange price. I think he's underpriced. I think he's at a good price, but I think the other United assets are at an even better price than what we get from him. So yeah, I really like the price that we get from Greenwood, Martial, and Rashford, for example. So I think not necessarily are more of a priority. I think City, you know what they can do, and we know what KDB can do. Coming in game week 3 for them. So yeah, I really like KDB coming in game week 3 for Aubameyang, but also you will need one of those Man U attackers you will need one of those Man U attackers in your team as well. Can we accept this in the Premier League too? So Ziyech is a class player. I expect him to do well. I'm more intrigued by what Werner can do in the league, and what we get from him compared to what we can get from Ziyech. So yeah, will be interesting to see. I think he's at a great price. I think 8 million for Ziyech is really good, and I'll be interested to see what we can get from him, especially with these Chelsea opening fixtures. So if we look at Chelsea, they've got Brighton, West Brom, Palace, Southampton in their first 5. That's a great run of fixtures. It's exactly what Chelsea need to hit the ground running with these new signings. Liverpool at home in game week 2 is far from ideal for them, but the 4 matches around that are really worth looking at. So I think Chelsea, although they're ranked quite low, if we look in the terms of 8 fixtures because of their games at the end of it, if we put that up to 5, for example, the first 5 games, we see them come much higher up this list. So we can have Chelsea in at number 5 there. So yeah, I think Leicester again do have good fixtures, but I just don't know whether I expect them to hit the ground running. They were pretty poor at the end of last season. If they bring in a couple of new signings, then someone like Maddison in at only 7 million or Barnes in at only 7 are good differentials to start the season with. You could own them for the first 2 and then look at someone like Greenwood game week 3 onwards, but it's definitely a possibility to own those Leicester assets as differentials early on in the season. Vardy or Kane, both have great fixtures to start with. So we've just, I did answer this, but we'll go back to it. I think if we look at those Spurs fixtures and those Leicester fixtures at the top there, those Spurs fixtures, for me, I want Kane. I think Leicester's fixtures are nice and they're pretty evenly matched on paper. It's pretty difficult to pick between the top two there. I just think that the way the season ended last year is swaying it in the favour of Leicester, of Spurs for me. I think Kane was so involved. He was playing more of that up front position, whereas Vardy's Leicester, they weren't creating chances. I know they've got Maddison back, so it could change a lot, but I would just like to I would be starting with Kane over Vardy out of the two. Have I identified any teams who turn good later on? You want to bring a West Ham lads when the fixtures turn better. So we can have a look at that. If we have a look, probably the second half of Christmas. So if we go from game week 8 to 15, game week 8 to 15. So that sort of period, we can have a look at who's got the best fixtures. If you guys do want access to this tool, there's a link in the description to Fantasy Football Hub, which will give you 25% off. Feel free to sign up and let me know if you have any questions. So we can see a few of them there. We've got West Ham, who have an awful start, but then their fixtures do turn quite nice. Man City as well over that sort of second half November period. Very nice fixtures for them there. And then you've got a lot of those teams that we know we've got assets from. So Newcastle, we've got the likes of Newcastle, we know we've got the likes of Lascelles and then the likes of St. Maximin, all really well priced that could definitely become assets in the second sort of half of the first half of the season. Palace up at the top. We potentially have a 4.0 starting Palace defender. So it is worth having a look at him as well. So yeah, I think there's definitely and Spurs then drop off right to the bottom. So a wild card, if you can hold it after game week 2, playing it at game week 7, there's a lot of so I think it's definitely worth holding that wild card to game week 7 and not playing it in game week 2, which a lot of people are discussing. I'll be waiting and looking to play it later. So yeah. So the fixtures have come out. Let me know, guys, is there any teams that you really wanted an asset for but are now not going for at all, or vice versa, someone you hadn't considered that is now looking like it's gonna be in your team. I think West Ham is the one that stood out for a lot of us. So many of us had Souček in their team that so yeah, a lot of us had Souček. It's an interesting one. Their fixtures are not good enough to start with him at 5 million. So I will be staying well clear of Souček in my team at the moment. Palace have great fixtures. Hope they play better. I hope so. I know they started the season well, and they kept a lot of clean sheets, especially around that Christmas time, and I think they didn't have much to play for come the end of the season. So looking at some of their sort of fixtures, if we go back slightly and we have a look there, we've got Palace sort of from sort of game week 5 onwards, when they play Brighton, Fulham, Wolves, Leeds, Burnley, Newcastle, then that's a really nice run of fixtures for Palace. So an interesting one there, but yeah, probably not worth getting on straight from the beginning. Burnley is another interesting one. Start the season with a very difficult run of games. So Burnley, we've got a blank to start with, and then Leicester away in game week 2. So looking at those Burnley players, it's not someone that you really want to have at the start of the season. But then their fixture run from game week 3 through to game week 9 looks really nice with Newcastle, West Brom, Southampton, Brighton and Palace in there. Definitely worth having a look at them. The likes of Charlie Taylor at 4.5 and the likes of others in around that. Even Chris Wood up front at 6.5 is definitely worth having a look at when it comes to those sort of game week 3 onwards fixtures. So will Vardy still be a good asset while having Europa? They don't have any good enough to rotate with him. I think he's like Kane. I think every he'll play every fixture. He'll be there in the starting lineup when they want him to be. So yeah, I would definitely be going. I think if Vardy's rotation is what putting you off him, then don't read into that. He will play almost every week. Iheanacho's not good enough. Vardy is still their number one man, but I just think someone like Kane is a better option. Souček and Leeds defenders, that's another one which has come out. If we look at the fixture tracker, Leeds sitting second bottom, Liverpool, Sheffield United, City, and Wolves all in their opening five. It's a very difficult sort of opening run for Leeds as well as so I wouldn't be looking at those Leeds defenders anyway, let alone with those fixtures. Vardy is 34, but if you look at the Europa League, those opening stages are often quite simple for teams coming from the Prem. So I don't expect Vardy to be playing in all of them. I expect if he's going to get rotated, it will come in those Europa League games. Let Iheanacho get a little bit more experience. Let him play in the Europa League. I expect Vardy to be playing almost all the Prem games after their form at the end of last season. My plan for United and City assets is to bring United assets into my team game week 2 and City then in game week 3. So I'll probably start with Greenwood in my team and start with him on my bench. And so he's ready to go game week 2. And then a City asset will come into my team probably game week 3. So I so I'll probably be bringing in someone like De Bruyne in for Aubameyang after we've got very good opening 2 fixtures for Arsenal, and Aubameyang now that he's midfielder, we can just swap him out for someone like De Bruyne. So I think that's a really good opening bit. Do we take De Bruyne and put him on the bench or bring in for a free transfer? I think because his game week 2 fixture isn't good enough, and the way Arsenal start, I think it makes really good sense to bring him in for a free transfer into game week 3 after Aubameyang has played Fulham and West Ham in the opening 2. I am currently starting with Salah, so if we look at their fixtures, it's pretty mixed. Leeds, Chelsea, Arsenal, Aston Villa first 4. It's not amazing. So it's not amazing, but you know what Salah and Liverpool can do against pretty much any team. I plan on going with Salah and Trent in my game week 1 team. I probably won't triple up like I had planned to do, but you never know. You never know. Things could change, but I think having 2 of them, Trent will be in my team all season, let alone who they're playing. And I like Salah a lot. We know what he can do against practically anyone, so he'll probably start in my team as well. If we look at my team at the moment and try and put some fixtures to this, hi Hugh, no, thank you. So Aubameyang is in there, Salah's in there. We've got Werner in there as well because of some really nice Chelsea fixtures. I probably won't start with Jimenez, although their fixtures after the first couple of game weeks are really nice. So if we take out the first 3 game weeks, if we go from game week 3, if we take out the first 2 weeks, they rank first in terms of fixture difficulty. So they've got West Ham, Fulham, Leeds, Newcastle, Palace, Leicester, Southampton up as their next run. But it's the fact that they have in the first 2, when we find Wolves being sort of third on the list, Sheffield United, Man City in their opening 2 weeks. So I think it's a tough one to start with Traore, and I think looking game week 3 to bring in those Wolves assets is a really good way to do. So I think Traore won't start. I think Traore's again not confirmed minutes. He's not going to start every week. He can often be used as an impact sub in games where they want him to be so. So yeah, I think he's not one that I'll be going for. Why no Fernandez? I think his price is really interesting. I think as I've said, he's underpriced when it comes to the likes of other premiums like De Bruyne and Sterling, but overpriced when it comes to the other United assets. So I like someone like Greenwood. If there's no signing on right at that right wing, then I really like Greenwood more than I like the price of Fernandez. Fernandez doesn't play game week 1, so I don't really want a 10.5 player sat on my bench game week 1 anyway when they have a blank. So I definitely think that there's better options for me at the start than Fernandez. Sheffield United, Ramsdale, a set and forget goalie. I think it's an interesting price for him. I don't think their fixtures early on are worth going for him. So I think, yeah, he's not only useful when they get pens, and they do seem to get them, and they've continued to get them. So I don't think he's probably going to reduce that much for them, but I just like the price of others more. So on Sheffield United, their fixtures at the beginning aren't good enough, I don't think. I think someone like McCarthy at Southampton offers a much better sort of goalkeeper set and forget until the first wild card than Ramsdale at 5.0. So I think the Southampton fixtures, in terms of, if we just flick that to defence and have a look at sort of the first lot of games, we've got Southampton in the first 8 having the best overall games for defensive possibility. So I think that McCarthy will be my game week 1 goalkeeper for sure. Leno, we still don't have confirmation on how long he's out for. So we don't know how long Leno is out for. I definitely wouldn't be having Leno or Martinez in my team until we get confirmation on whichever it is going to be. The Arsenal fixtures are good at the first 2, but then drop off a cliff quite considerably, with Leicester City, Liverpool all to come. So yeah, I definitely wouldn't be going for an Arsenal defender. They've got a good opening too, but then after that, and don't waste a transfer on a goalkeeper. So Aurier looks like he's going to be sold. Spurs defenders overall are not a bad pick. I think Eric Dyer coming in at 5.0. So yeah, I think that there's definitely reasoning to have these Spurs defenders in your team. They've got some great fixtures, but yeah, I definitely would be steering clear of Aurier because he's potentially on a transfer out of Spurs at the moment. Will Mitrovic have an explosive start like Pukki? They've got really good fixtures and they kind of need to hit the ground running. So if you're looking for a cheap differential forward, I really like Mitrovic as that option. They will need to get these points early on because their run of fixtures come Christmas time is not nearly as good. They've got a lot of their easy games at the start of the season. As I can see, they're ranked just 3rd behind Spurs and Southampton there. Is worth looking at Mitrovic, although we know what he's done in the Premier League before. So yeah. So Mitrovic is in your team, has experience and expect much more this season. So I agree. I think he's got experience. I think he is a good differential early on at just 6.0. He's ranked at the same price as Che Adams, and that's a very difficult decision between the two of them. So yeah, I would be interested to see why you're going with Mitrovic over someone like Che Adams. So let me know why you're picking him out of the two of them. Sorry, no. Lamptey or KWP or Ayling. So it's not Ayling for me. Fixture wise, Lamptey and KWP, it has to go straight to KWP, Kyle Walker-Peters, because of the fixtures that they've got early on. Definitely the one that I'll be going to out of the two of them. If I was going for Southampton defender, I really like the both of them. So um, I don't know if you guys have got any more questions. Um, so so yeah, if you've got any more questions, fire away. Sorry, I just had to block a few people in the chat there. Um, Let me know what you guys think. If you've got McCarthy in net, then I'd go Lamptey as a second choice. But yeah, I definitely wouldn't be looking at them. Yeah, I'd rather Kyle Walker Peters and Ryan than Lamperty and McCarthy. I think that's a better double up. I'd rather the McCarthy, no, sorry, the Ryan KWP double up. Um, Adams has Ings and Long, but they play two up front, so Ings isn't competition for Adams. It will be Ings. It will be Adams and Long that is the competition. Um, yeah, so I'd probably go Ryan and KWP then as the option, as the double up. Probably the better option, although you know you're going to play your goalkeeper every week. So McCarthy and Lamptey, so you can play McCarthy every week there. Um, what are my thoughts on Justin at Leicester as a differential? I do like him a lot. So yeah, I do like Justin at 4.5. They've got good opening fixtures. He should be starting the first 4 or 5 with Pereira still being out. So yeah, I do like Justin a lot. Definitely worth considering with their opening fixtures. Do I think Brewster will go on loan to a Premier League club? It's talk of West Brom, but I mean we don't really know. If he goes, then he's in everyone's team. The best 4.5 option there will be, but yeah, it's an interesting one. I hope he does. I think it'd be really interesting for him. I think he's a great player and he's got a lot of potential. Mm. I think those transfer deadlines in game week 4 is going to be hectic for our squads. So, if you guys don't have any further questions, this was just sort of a drop in stream just to sort of look at the fixtures and things like that. Um, but if you guys don't have any more questions, we can wrap it up. You can definitely sort of have a look at the sort of final stuff that you guys have got. But we'll be back next week. So anyway, guys, thanks a lot for your support once again, and I will see you next Tuesday.